Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins on Atlanta Sports Unlimited with Tom Pollen and Chris Smitherman behind the scenes. I'm Dave Holcomb. Boy, we've got a lot to get to. I think it's going to be a theme all season long. Plenty of content with, games to talk about. And there were 17, pretty exciting games in the NFL since we last talked. I guess 16, not counting the first Thursday night game. The most recent Thursday night game makes it 16. So let's dive right into the topics that we're going to get to. We're going to start with the Atlanta Falcons, but we're going to get to a lot of other topics around the league, fantasy related and just general news. And of course, we have your picks for week 2 coming up in 30, 45 minutes or so.
Yes, we do. Picks in week 1 did not do as well as I would have liked. But you don't know anything in week 1. We got blindsided by a lot of stuff in week 1. And one of the things with the Falcons and the way they played against the Eagles, I didn't see that coming. And I don't know where the disconnect came. Matt Ryan didn't go downfield at all. And I watched the game on Game Pass, and I wanted to see if, I took a look at the snap count. The guys were on the field, but I wanted to see how were they running their routes. Were they, getting separation? Were they cutting their routes off early? I wanted to see what they were doing within Arthur Smith's offense. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, they're not making all 22 available right now because
made me very upset this year.
Very frustrating.
I was wondering how long it would take us to mention that, and it took 3 minutes. Yeah, I'm upset about that as well. I wanted to watch the Falcons. I was at the Falcons game. Mm-hmm. And I rewatched the TV broadcast in case I could learn anything from the announcers.
No, you really couldn't.
And then I wanted to watch the coaches' film. I wanted to watch the coaches' film for the Steelers game as well. And you're right, not available. Very frustrating.
Very frustrating because, I wanted to get that long view to see what the receivers were doing. And was it just a matter of Matt Ryan not looking downfield or the receivers not being available downfield? And you couldn't tell. So, and it's frustrating because you cannot win with Matt Ryan if you're only going to run, your longest play is 18 yards. It's not going to cut. And,
well, I agree. I agree. And that part of what I want to talk about today is where the Falcons go from week 1 and how do they improve in week 2. And I think that's part of it is more Matt Ryan, more passes downfield. But what this screams to me is Arthur Smith is really concerned about his offensive line. And
he should be.
I was going to just say that. Yeah, and rightfully so. I think he's right to be concerned. 5 or 6 penalties on this unit in week 1. The Falcons were tied for the second most penalties in week 1. I saw your tweet about just flags everywhere around the league, but Atlanta was among the leaders in that.
Yes, they were.
And they only gave up 3 sacks, and the 3 sacks came late in the game. Mm-hmm. But that was late when the Falcons had to throw the ball to get back into it. Arthur Smith said this in his post-game press conference, that I do not want to be obvious. He kept using the word obvious with his play calling and to make it so apparent that they are passing, because he didn't say this part, but he has no faith that his offensive line will be able to protect Matt Ryan and be able to block. That's why it was pretty much even in terms of runs and passes in the first half. And that's why the Falcons twice ran the ball on 3rd and 9. Twice they did that in the first half.
Right.
So I agree with you that, we want to see Matt Ryan open it up. We want to see the offense down the field. We want to see Calvin Ridley. We want to see Kyle Pitts make plays. But
at some point, you still have to go downfield. You still have to try. You might not have the faith in your offensive line to do it, but occasionally you still have to make that you still got to make that throw, or else you're not doing yourself any favors. You're going to allow more rush because they have no reason to respect the fact that you might go downfield. And you're going to make the running game, make it harder to execute the running game because you got 7, 8 guys in the box all the time. So at some point you have to try and loosen things up a little bit. And that's why I say I wanted to see what the receivers were doing. Did they give Ryan the chance, or did Smith just keep everything under wraps because he didn't have faith that they could block? At some point you can't, and I know it's tough, but you've got to cut it loose at some point. I've watched some of the games around the league, and it's amazing, and especially like the rookie quarterbacks or the young guns. Like
a lot of them played well.
Yes, they did, and got the ball downfield. Mac Jones, got the ball downfield. And I don't know why people say he has a weak arm, because he fired a couple of ropes 20 yards downfield for completions.
Yeah.
At some point you got to do it. You got to make that try. You got to get a receiver downfield and at least try to hook up, or else. Yeah, if he takes a sack, he takes a sack. I mean, he's a very durable quarterback. And you saw Matt Ryan stretch out to try for that first down. In the first, just sold it all to try and get that first down.
Right.
He's a tough guy, and if he's got to take the sack, he'll take the sack. But I didn't see him in too much trouble in the first half. I didn't think the pass protection was great. I didn't think it was that bad. He had a chance to step up a couple of times in the pocket. And normally if you can do that, you have time to get a ball off the air, or at least, 20 to 25 yards. I'm not saying he's got to bomb something 40, 50 yards downfield. I mean, this isn't Matt Stafford against the Bears where, you're just not going to have anybody cover a receiver down 40 yards downfield. But at some point, you do have to make that throw. You got to try and make that throw. You got the receivers to make that throw. Ridley can do it. Gage can do it. Zacchaeus can do it. At some point, you've got to get them down there.
Well, whether it's the receivers not getting open or Arthur Smith not testing the waters deep in week 1, Calvin Ridley was the only receiver who caught a pass for the Falcons.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that until looking at the box score again last night. And Russell Gage had 2 targets. He's the only other receiver that had targets in that game. Now I'm counting Cordero Patterson as a running back because that's how they're using him right now. So he's not a wide receiver. Kyle Pitts, Hayden Hurst, Mike Davis, Keith Smith, all had receptions, all had more catches than any other receiver not named Calvin Ridley on the Falcons in week 1. Keith
Smith played a lot of it met some protection and light any defense up. I agree with you, Kenneth. I'm not going to argue with that. But as I say, you still have to make that throw occasionally. You still have to present that threat, or else you're going to have problems. The fullback.
Keith Smith.
Yeah. He played a lot of snaps on offense, more than I thought he would. It seems like Smith was trying to play more of that heavy running game. Now, he did get Pitts and Hayden Hurst involved, 2 tight end alignments.
Oh, yeah.
So it looked like, Smith was going for that quite a bit. But as I say, 18 yards cannot be your longest play. It just can't.
Hayden Hurst and Pitts pretty much split the snaps, and they were on the field together 33 times out of 71 snaps, I believe it was. I wrote an article on SI.com about the Falcons and their use of the 2 tight ends and the 2 backs. And what I found interesting, on the first 6 plays of the game, Tom, Mike Davis and Cordero Patterson were on the field together.
Yeah.
And Pitts and Hurst were on the field at that time too. It was two tight ends, two running backs, and not two traditional running backs, not really a fullback.
Right.
Two backs. And after that, after the first 6 plays, Arthur Smith continued to use the double tight end sets throughout the game. But Cordell Patterson and Mike Davis, after the first 6 plays, were not on the field. They were only on the field again for another 2 plays together.
Which is surprising considering that the offense was running pretty good at that point.
Right, yeah. And that's would be my question if I got another crack at asking Arthur Smith something from week 1. This worked for the first 6 plays pretty effectively. Was that just a script that you knew you were only going to use for the first 6 plays, or why didn't you keep going?
Go back to it, right? I mean, because they were gaining yards. They were ripping off big plays against the Eagles and, against the Eagles defense. And you would think that, you got something going. This is Arthur Smith's strength. This is what he does.
Yeah.
And, why do you not stick with it? You see it's working. You got to stay, to me, the script means that you're trying out some different things to see what's going to work, to see what you're going to continue doing as the game goes on. Once you get the script done, where are we going to go? What do we want to do? What worked? What didn't work? And Patterson was running tough.
It was the exact opposite of that. It was like the first 6 plays we were doing we're only going to have these players on the field for the first 6 plays. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the game, no matter what we do in the first 6 plays, we're not using it. That's what they did.
Right. So, I don't understand it because, Davis made a couple good. Well, let's see. Davis.
He didn't finish with great numbers.
But
he runs hard. I really like the way he looks.
And Cordell Patterson ran a lot harder than I actually thought. There were times he wasn't as effective as a running back for the Bears.
I mean, this was probably the best game he's played at running back in the NFL.
I would say so, definitely. Absolutely, after seeing him the last 2 years with the Bears.
Yeah.
And seeing Matt Nagy trying to run him up the gut on 3rd and 1 with but Patterson ran great. And another problem I had with the Falcons was down by the once they got inside the red zone, they got inside the 10-yard line twice.
I think that was going to be my last point about the offense anyway. The same problem they had last year. We brought it up so much during the offseason. I'm sure our listeners are tired of hearing about it, but until they fix it, we're going to keep bringing it up. 26th last year in red zone percentage scoring touchdowns.
Right.
And they're 0 for 2 in week 1. Mm-hmm. Getting down to the red zone only twice is not particularly good either.
No.
And then both times you settle for field goals, you get 6 points. This game's completely different if you score those 2 touchdowns early in the first quarter, early second quarter.
That's what I'm getting at. You might change the complexion of the game. You might change some of the things that the Eagles do. You might actually have your offense goes into the game with a little more confidence, and they might actually produce a little bit better as the game goes on. But that was it. Jalen Mayfield killed one drive with inside the 5-yard line with illegal procedure. And you saw. It's funny because it's obvious. You see the Eagles players going pointing towards him, and I'm looking at my TV going, because it's just obvious to me that he did it too. But and that's the kind of thing that I'm sure really frustrates Arthur Smith. Is you can't self-destruct when you get down there either. Mayfield's a rookie, but he's starting. He's on the field. He's got to have that kind of presence.
Yeah. And it was 1st and goal to 2, and they've committed back-to-back penalties, and it's 1st and goal to 12 instead.
Right. And then one problem I had with Arthur Smith. Why are you rolling out with Matt Ryan in that sequence of plays when they're on the 12? He's rolling him out. The end zone gets crowded when you get that far down the field as it is when you're, at the 10 or within the 10. But you're cutting the end zone in half by taking Ryan, rolling him out to the right, and you're not running any kind of rub routes or anything else to get somebody open. It's just you got a lot of defenders and receivers in one small spot. Of course, he's not going to be able to pick out a receiver down there. Why?
Right.
And it's not Ryan's game anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let him drop back and let him, scan the entire end zone. Let him look. But, that play puzzled me. And it's just a matter of you did such a great job getting down there and you blew yourselves up. And, that's not going to work. That's definitely not going to work against Tampa this weekend.
I know, I want, and we haven't even gotten to the defensive performance in week 1.
No, we haven't.
But let's go ahead and look towards week 2. This is in any scenario during the season, I would say, Atlanta trying to upset Tampa, the reigning Super Bowl champs, on the road would be a tough task. But Tampa's had 3 extra days to rest and prepare.
Yes.
And Atlanta's coming off of just a dud of a week 1 performance under their new head coach. I mean, this is a really tall task right now with where the Atlanta Falcons are to win on the road against Tampa. And that's just, I guess it's such a shame is the way I'm going to put it, because this team hasn't been above 500 in any getting a call here in any week since the end of the week 17 season. Their September record, I believe, is 2-10 since the start of the 2018 season. We talked last week, or this might have been off air, that we just felt like we want the Falcons to get off to a great start. It was a great opportunity to do that against a non-playoff team at home, and they lose by 29. Now they have to go on the road and play a really great Tampa team who's number 1 in everything in rush defense.
Yeah.
So Arthur Smith's plan of balance and going to stick with Davis and Patterson even when I'm down by 17 points, that's not going to work this week. He's got, as you said, he's got to open up the offense deep. But Ryan's going to have to throw 40 times to win this game.
It's going to be a lot tougher this week because you're right. And Tampa, their secondary is tough too. This is not a team that you're going to throw easily against. Oh, even though Dak Prescott made it look easy.
Well, Tampa doesn't have the depth quite as they do in the front 7.
Yeah, their secondary is hurt.
And they have that, right. They have the injury to Sean Murphy-Bunting, but I do think Ron Thomas says, do you think the Atlanta Falcons can sign a great – I think he means O-line man in free agency? Not right now.
There's nobody out there.
And the Falcons didn't do that because they're up against a salary cap. So, unfortunately,
I don't know what the salary cap looks like for next year. I would hope so, because I don't think they have one on their roster right now. I think they have some solid players, but I don't think they really have that Pro Bowl performer, and especially at left tackle, you got to have that.
Well, for this year, they have what they have. It's not changing for this year.
No, it's not changing this year. This is it.
My point I wanted to make about Sean Murphy-Bunting, having an injury in the middle of a game and Dallas taking advantage of that is very different than the Falcons wanting to try and take advantage of the same injury 10 days later because Tampa Bay's had the extra days to prepare.
Yes,
so, yes, I'm hopeful that Matt Ryan can take advantage of some of the things Dak Prescott did. However, Tampa will be prepared to not have Sean Murphy-Bunting this time.
Well, yeah, it's right. Tampa will be prepared. You know that Bruce Arians is going to have everything taken care of by the time they kick off that game tomorrow, which I guess is 4:25 your time, 3:25 my time.
Yeah, 4:25.
Yeah, Bruce Arians is one of the best coaches in the NFL. I've always loved him. The Bears had their chance to hire him, and they hired Mark Trustman instead. And that tells you kind of the state of the Bears. But Bruce Arians will have that hole covered, and he will have an alternate plan in place to take care of that. Yeah, it's not going to be as easy for the Falcons this week, and you still got to deal with that defensive line.
Do the Falcons keep it close?
Wow.
I guess I could just ask you, can the Falcons win? Is that an easier answer?
Oh, they can't win.
Okay.
I don't think they can. I'm sorry, Falcons fans. I really am. Because I would like to see the Falcons win. I want to see them do well. I want to see them win.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this team struggle. But right now, I don't see how. Because, again, the defense isn't playing either. Yeah. And the defense,
no.
I mean, and I was not impressed with Dean Pease last week. He was blitzing off of different areas of the field. Problem was he wasn't fooling Jalen Hurts. He brought a blitz from the right side. Hurts would either, have a receiver fill that area to complete a pass to, or he would slip past the rush and run into that area. I think about 3 or 4 straight plays, the Falcons tried the blitz, and Hurts went right where the vacated spot from the blitzer and gained big yards. Dean Pease, you don't rotate coverage, or show blitz with the linebacker, bring it in with the safety, and let the linebacker go back and cover. Let Aluakon go back and cover and bring a safety. At some point you can't. They weren't even rotating coverage. They weren't doing anything to disguise it. Hurts knew everything the Falcons were going to do on defense all day, and this is a second-year quarterback. So,
that makes it scary going up against Tom Brady,
yes, it does.
The man that knows everything. I will say, I think Hurts, his athleticism, there was times where Grady Jarrett looked like he was going to sack him, but I mean, Hurts just ran away from him.
Yes.
Maybe Tom Brady's not running away from anybody, so maybe they'll get home a little bit more against Tom Brady. Maybe. I still don't think they're going to hold Tampa under 30 points.
Neither do I. As I said, I don't like saying that, but based on what we saw last week, you're facing the defending world champions, defending Super Bowl champions, and they're not ready. And it gets me back to this point about not playing your starters in the preseason. If Smith had been here for like 2 or 3 years and his system was in place and his players were familiar with what he wanted them to do and everything, then I could see, playing the starters sparingly in the preseason. But you got a new coaching staff. You got a new system. You're trying to do new things, different things with this team than they had to do the last few years with Dan Quinn. And they took no advantage. Matt Ryan did not suit up once during the preseason. We did. You can play as many scrimmages as you want. Scrimmages mean nothing. You're not going to simulate game speed in a scrimmage. And say what you will about the preseason and the number of players and the quality of the players that you're facing, you're at least getting game speed. So you might fix some of these penalties, and you might fix, some of this, these problems with being out to with your quarterback, jumping too early, not being familiar with quarterback snap count, not being familiar with what Arthur Smith wants to do on particular plays or when he sees a particular defense. You're not getting any of that in the preseason. All of a sudden, you're learning on the fly right now. And that's not going to work against Tampa Bay. And I don't get it. I didn't get it. I still don't get it. And you saw it from a lot of teams over the last week. They ran into problems. There was not a lot of continuity with teams that didn't play their starters or didn't run the starters out at some point in the preseason.
Yeah, and I think that's a good transition into our new segment, Love and Loathed, what we really liked and what we did not like so much from week one. I think your number one point being so much sloppy football because of the lack of preseason reps for a lot of the starters around the league. And that, I think that's probably what we just have to accept going forward, that these teams, these organizations don't want to put their stars at risk in the preseason in August. So they're not going to practice that much. And week one has kind of become week one in college football. It's sloppy because it's the first game of the season. It's the first time they've played in 8-9 months.
Yeah, but you don't get to play Eastern Teachers College, in your first week in the NFL.
Well, that's not true for everybody.
You can schedule that Division III school for your first week in college, and that kind of works out for you. You don't get that in the NFL. You got to play a real football team in the NFL in week one. So, at some point, you got to get to it. I'm not saying you got to play them a whole game.
I know. I understand.
Give them a couple of series so, they're not – because things happen in an NFL game that aren't going to happen during a scrimmage.
I agree with you.
Oh, okay. Why am I arguing with you then?
I don't know. I guess you don't like my comparison between college and the NFL, but it's. I think
I like it. I was just making a joke.
Okay. But so let's. What else did you like from week one? I've got a list of 4 things that I liked, 3 things that I didn't like so much from week one around the league. I'll get started. I liked Joe Burrow, and I liked the Bengals. I liked the Bengals game plan for their offense.
Yes.
I don't think enough has been made over the fact that Joe Burrow is coming back from an ACL injury. I just feel like we really haven't talked about it that much. Everyone is. Oh, we got Chris is.
Houday.
Houday, yeah.
Forever. I just got to come in and make sure I say that. We won an OT, but still, hey, we still won, y'all.
That's right. Big win for the Bengals week one. So Joe Burrow attempted 27 passes, completed 20 of them. And Cincinnati ran it 36 times. I believe Joe Mixon had 29 carries. That is a ton of carries for modern football for one guy. And
but Joe Mixon is very capable.
Yeah, I love it.
He is a good running back.
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't mean to question it. I mean, it's not going to – you can't do that every single week. But in an overtime game where it's really close and you're trying to run out the clock, yeah, you're going to give your best player that many touches. So I loved that they didn't put Joe Burrow in another – they can't put him in another situation. They didn't improve the offensive line. They went with Jamar Chase instead, who scored a really big touchdown in this game.
Yeah. They were terrible as far as protecting. Burrow got sacked 5 times.
Yeah, and he's going to get hit again because their offensive line isn't really improved. It's still the weak point of the Cincinnati team. I think their defense is a little bit better, but the offensive line is not.
No.
So the way you protect him is you don't ask him to throw 50, 60 times like they were doing last year. That cannot happen. Burrow will get hurt again. So you run Joe Mixon 29 times. You run overall 36 times. I love that game plan, and they got a win.
Yeah. It was perfect. And tell you one more thing about playing your starters in preseason. The Bengals did. Burrow struggled in the preseason. Jamar Chase struggled in the preseason. But here they come out in the regular season, week one, and they look like a professional offense, barring the offensive line.
Right.
But Jamar Chase is actually no drops. I mean, he is reeling in passes that he should be catching. And Burrow's making good throws, and you got guys who are ready for the season because they played a little bit in the preseason.
Right.
I know I'm probably in the minority on this because everybody seems to accept now that your starters don't play in the preseason.
No, I don't think you're in the minority. There were lots of people in the press box. I was overhearing conversations. This is what you get when you don't play your starters in the preseason. People were not the press was not happy with the Falcons week one performance after not playing in the preseason. No, I don't think you're in the minority. I don't know. What do fans think? Do you contribute the week one woes for the Atlanta Falcons to not playing in the preseason? How much of that is a factor? let us know. Send us your comments here. You can tweet at us after the show if you're listening on replay at TJ Pollen, at DM Holcomb. Gary thinks that the Falcons should schedule Georgia State in week 1 to get rolling. Schedule a cupcake game.
No, not Georgia State. Georgia State at Augusta. Or at Augusta. It's got to be a hyphen school.
Oh, okay.
Hyphen schools can play basketball, but they're no good at football.
Right.
So, you got to make sure you get a hyphen school in there as your first game cupcake. So that's how you do it.
Continuing with my love and loathe list, and interject, anything that you have. I don't know if you prepared a list beforehand.
I got a few things in mind. I didn't write them down, but I got them up here.
All right. I'm going with Urban Meyer as my number one loathe. Number one loathe, Urban Meyer.
Yes.
We can talk about the rumors with him in USC and his response where a reporter gives him an opportunity to refute the rumors, and he says, no, that's not going to happen. He looks down like he can't even make eye contact with the guy to confidently say that, no, I'm not leaving Jacksonville. He's like, no, I'm not going to.
Oh God, Nick Saban.
I'm going to avoid ranting about that. What I loathed most about the Jaguars game.
He's not worth that kind of ranting. Let's put it there.
Oh, well, I'm going to rant about him.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
During the game, what he did.
Okay.
He just looked miserable on the sideline. It's so obvious to me that he doesn't want to be there. It's so clear to me.
I agree. That was going to be one of the games I watched on Game Pass. I just didn't get to it.
It's worth watching, even though, it's two kind of bad teams.
Yeah.
But, Trevor Lawrence had some nice throws, made some major mistakes. But I am concerned, even with somebody as talented as Trevor Lawrence, that Urban Meyer is going to mess him up. And I guess that was my concern when they hired Urban Meyer. But it's come to fruition in week 1.
Yes.
Like in week 1, it's already an issue that Urban Meyer might leave. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is the guy who you picked to help rebuild your team down there in Jacksonville. You picked him because he was a winner in college. Because you assumed he knew how to build a winning team, how to get a winning attitude going in the locker room. And there's nothing about the attitude in Jacksonville right now that says winning.
Right. He's making the culture worse. He's not making it better. And I think part of the issue is he's not used to losing. I think he looked at this roster in the preseason and as he moved forward to week 1, and he's like, we're not going to have a winning record. This is going to be the first time. This is the first time ever in Meyer's career he has a losing record at any point. His win percentage in college is like 850. It's incredible. Right. He's a great college coach, but I don't know if he can deal with adversity because he loses one game a year and he's already lost one game.
Yes, exactly. That is it right there. You nailed it. I can't say it better.
All right. Well, we'll move on to a coach that I think had a great week 1, Mike Tomlin. He gets a lot of, I think, unfair criticism, especially in Pittsburgh. The expectations are high there. If you're not winning Super Bowls, then they don't really like you that much.
Right.
But I think Mike Tomlin
had Knowles set such a high standard. They've had to kind of, set their bar so high. It's difficult to do anything now. But Tomlin takes too much criticism.
He does. Well, as he would say, the standard is the standard. So he's got to live up to that standard.
Boy, wouldn't it be nice if that were the standard everywhere? Just purely, that's the standard.
It should be.
It should be, but it's not. Some teams, some front offices are happy to make the playoffs, and if we go farther, that's good. But Super Bowl or bust should be your goal every year.
It should be, but there is some negative to that expectation. You get an entitled, somewhat spoiled fan base who then criticizes your Hall of Fame head coach.
You mean like the New England Patriots?
Well, I was talking about the Steelers, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, the Patriots are an example of that. Another
same coach. That's the thing.
Right. Anyway, to Mike Tomlin, one of my next point is actually going to be about all of the 4th down tries that were around the league in week 1. Not in Pittsburgh. Not for Mike Tomlin. He had 4th and goal or 4th and short inside the 10-yard line twice with his team down in the second half. They were down 10-0. Then they were down 10-3. Both times he kicks the field goal, and he was correct both times.
Yeah.
I know, very conservative, but you want to – if you have – not everybody can do this, but if you have a great defense like Pittsburgh does, you can be patient and you can assume that even when you're playing a Josh Allen offense, that you can hold them down.
Yeah.
And if you get, just inch a little closer with field goals, you can come back and win the game.
Right.
And that's exactly
what play is gonna put you over the top. Right.
And they get the 2 field goals to make it 10-6. Then the offense finally does reach the end zone. They take the lead. Then they get the big special teams play that changed the tide of the game, put them up by 10, and Buffalo didn't get within less than a touchdown after that. And
no, the Steelers' defense was stifling. I mean, it was really tough. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they got one sack fumble of Allen from T.J. Watt. They didn't have a ton of sacks, but I think they made Allen uncomfortable. He missed passes that he would normally hit. And that to me was kind of a sign of, well, maybe it was week 1. Maybe, he didn't get enough August reps, but it also, I think was the Steelers defense was making him uncomfortable. So
yeah, I agree.
The Bills went for 2 4th down tries and missed both.
Yes.
And the one that they pitched to the side, the Steelers were completely prepared for that. Again, great coaching by Mike Tomlin. Loved the coaching by the Steelers in week 1. And that transitions to the next thing that I loathed in week 1, 51 4th down tries around the league. I just explained why you don't want to go for 4th down, at least not all the time. Look, every 4th down attempt is different. You can't really say, we'll never go for 4th down. It depends on the yards and distance. It depends on the score. It depends on the time of game. It depends on the wind. It depends on a lot of things. But 51 4th down tries is a record. I believe it's a record for a week. And it just feels a little bit like Madden out there where it's like, if it's 4th and short, I'm going to go for it. Cincinnati, 4th and 1 at their own 30-yard line, went for it when they were up 21-7.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 plays later, Minnesota's in the end zone because they didn't convert on the 4th and 1, and Minnesota got back in that game, came back and almost won. Of course, on the next drive, Minnesota went for 4th and 4 and made it and scored a touchdown. So obviously going for 4th down isn't always bad. Cincinnati went for 4th down in overtime with the game tied, and they were with a minute 50 left at midfield, another risky opportunity. Went for it, made it, and they won the game. If they could have punted and conceded, played for a tie.
Played for a tie, yeah.
Or go for it, not get it, and you probably lose. So that's a really interesting 4th down decision in overtime in that scenario, play for a tie or play for the win. But overall, I just think, man, I think we've gone too far the other way. It's great that coaches are going for it more. They're being more aggressive. But I think you could look at Mike Tomlin and say, well, the Steelers were more conservative, were patient, kicked field goals, and were able to come back. You don't have to chase points all the time.
No, you don't. Right. Exactly. Well, I mean, we saw the importance of touchdowns over field goals in the Giants game against the Redskins. Because the Giants,
the football team.
Yeah, against the God, did I say it? Oh man. I've been getting a lot better at that. I'm sorry, I've been a football fan for decades. Oh no, that decade. I've been a long time football fan.
We'll make you put a quarter in the jar. It's okay.
5 field goals against a football team, and it cost them that they didn't get more touchdowns out of it. Gremlin, we're already finished talking about Atlanta. Yeah, right, Gremlin.
Yeah, Gremlin, we spent the first 25 minutes talking about the Falcons, and it put us both in a bad mood. So we've moved on.
Yeah, you did say you just got here, so don't put that on us, Gremlin.
We're on replay on YouTube,
Yeah.
on Facebook. Give us a subscription, a like on YouTube or Facebook if you go back and watch the beginning. But yeah, Thursday Night Football, the Giants made a ton of mistakes.
You know, and unfortunately, it wasn't Daniel Jones that you can really blame for this thing.
Daniel Jones played well, and you still lost. Like,
I know.
that doesn't bode well.
No, I'm not sold on Joe Judge as a head coach, though. So, part of that, I think, is just, I don't know. The guy doesn't seem to have an awareness. Oh, God. I'll get to that, Gremlin. We're going there. Yes, don't worry. But sometimes you do have to take the field goal. But it's a situation. You can't say I have to chase that touchdown every drive. There are times where you do have to take that field goal. And
or punt.
Punt, right? Or punt. Don't give the other team positive field position. That's ridiculous.
When you're up by 14.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. You're holding. You got a a 2-score lead. Don't make it easier for the other team to come back.
Right.
You can't do that. Matt Nagy was 0 for 4 in fourth downs against the Rams.
I rewatch this week. I was able to rewatch every game. I don't know if I'll be able to do that every week. I hope so, but I like to. I already know what's going to happen, so I like to look at it from a perspective of, well, why did it happen? Where did it turn in one team's favor? Where did it turn in another team's favor? And so many of the answers in week one were, well, it was this fourth down try. It was this fourth down miss, or it was this fourth down conversion. And I guess if we continue to see 50 attempts around the league every week on fourth down, that's what it's going to be. That's what the game will be. It's not, oh, this team turned it over this many times. This team committed this many penalties. That's why they lost. It's going to become, well, you were 0 for 2 on fourth down.
Yes, it might. And it's looking like this season is setting up that way. That's the thing. A copycat league. Bill Belichick kind of set this thing in motion as far as the fourth down conversions. And everybody praised Belichick because he went for a few fourth downs that, you would say, we're not in the book that says, okay, like the 2-point conversion book where, okay, here's where I go for the 2-point conversion. He kind of went outside the lines. I'm sorry. Okay. But he went outside the lines, and analytics said, well, and this is the problem I have with analytics all the time.
Right.
Because suddenly analytics gets on the bandwagon and says, well, yeah, you really need to go for more fourth downs. Why are you kicking a field goal here when you could go for fourth down? I think coaches have heard enough of that. So they went ahead and tried fourth downs. I think a lot of coaches have gone into this season feeling like, we're going to make that effort on fourth down. And that might change as the season goes on. But right now, I think we're going to have to live with that.
I'm glad you brought up the analytics, because if you make more than half of your fourth downs, the analytics are going to say, well, you're ahead. But it could still cost you a game, though. It could still lead to a loss, which leads to not making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you could say a fourth down conversion could lead to a win. But that's the risk with going for it. But
I love the fact that you want to have confidence in your team, that they can pick up any fourth down, that your guys are capable of going out there and doing this.
That doesn't mean every fourth down going for it is a smart decision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right on, Dave.
Yeah. I want to name one more thing I loathe from week one, then we'll move on to our next segment.
Well, I want to get a couple of things in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure. I didn't like the Titans
Tyler,
offense.
yes, you're right. What's that?
I didn't like the Titans offense. And if there is any team that made the playoffs that lost in week one that I'm concerned about, I'm not concerned about the Packers. The 35-point loss, whatever. I think they'll move on. They'll get better.
Okay.
Tennessee, And I guess the irony is I'm concerned because they lost Arthur Smith, and Arthur Smith not looking too hot after one game in Atlanta. But we talked about the double tight end sets for the Falcons. Very few tight end sets for Tennessee in week one. Jonnu Smith played almost 70% of the Titans snaps in 2020. Week one, Anthony Ferkser led the Titans tight ends in snaps, and he played 48.44% of the snaps. Way down, fewer double tight end sets, fewer sets with tight ends, fewer formations with tight ends. And I just don't know if they're going to have the same power running game with Derrick Henry, which is their bread and butter. Yes, if you don't get Derrick Henry established, how is Ryan Tannehill going to do the things that he does with A.J. Brown and Julio Jones? Like, they'll get their yards if they're behind in games like they were on Sunday, sure. But you got to establish Derrick Henry, and clearly he's been much better the last couple seasons when Arthur Smith was deploying 1-2 tight ends on every single play. Yeah. And if they only have 3 tight ends on their roster, Tennessee does. So I don't know if this is an adjustment they can even make on the fly. I'm very concerned about Tennessee and their offense.
So am I. And I'm telling you, Mike Vrabel called out Julio Jones last week publicly.
Yeah.
For a personal foul in the game that kind of helped let the game get away.
Yeah.
You still, the game hasn't gotten away by that point, but let the game get away, and it's not something you expect out of Julio Jones, but man, that he cost the Titans quite a bit in week one. So we'll see how that progresses. He's got to get his head back in the game. But yeah, I was just going to look here, and let's see, where's Tennessee? There's the Titans. Who took over? Todd Downing took over as offensive coordinator. And this is a guy who was their tight ends coach.
That's ironic.
He has not been an offensive coordinator in the NFL since 2017 with the Raiders. So 2019, 2020, he was their tight ends coach. So you wouldn't expect a lot of philosophy change out of that if he was a tight ends coach for Arthur Smith. But
yeah, right. But in week one there was.
Yeah. So, you wonder about that because you can't keep going forward like that. That's and Derrick Henry, I'm wondering if it's a matter of the fact that Derrick Henry is just he's got 3 or 4 seasons of carries and crammed within 2 seasons. You look at a guy who's gained 2,000 yards, it's tough coming back the next season from that. So, I want to see, but Ryan Tannehill's my fantasy quarterback. He's the only one that got in my fantasy right now. I need Tannehill.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
We'll talk about a quarterback maybe you can pick up in a little bit.
Okay. A couple of things I wanted to say that.
Yeah.
I got one thing. What happened to the Packers? My God. And is Jameis Winston actually that good? I don't think he's that good. 5 touchdown passes. He threw for 146 yards and 5 touchdown passes. How do you do that?
I think it was the fewest. What was the stat? The fewest passing yards for a quarterback that had 5 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah, how do you do that? It was incredible. 148 passing yards. And Green Bay just looked like they were out of it. And I don't know how that's going to be going forward. And I'm hoping it picks up. But I want to see what Jameis Winston does moving forward. Can he continue being in control, playing in control in the Saints offense? Because I think that was his positive. He played within himself.
Right.
But there's a couple of performances last week that I want to see if they can be reproduced. Kyler Murray with Arizona, again against the Titans, but he had a hell of a game.
He did.
So, are we going to see Kyler Murray, going forward? Has he taken that next step to being the quarterback that everybody thought he was when he was drafted first overall. And
he got hurt mid-season last year, and that really was where his numbers began to decline. The rushing attempts declined, and just his passing numbers declined as well. And that's when the Cardinals were like 6-3 started last year, and they finished 8-8. Is that right?
Yeah.
So they really just as a team tanked, and I think that really coincides with that injury. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see with him healthy if he can maintain the level of play that he did early last year. And I guess the question is always with a running quarterback, can he be healthy a whole season?
Yeah, right, exactly. And that always worries me about a running quarterback.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, because it doesn't take much. It only takes one hit, and you can, there goes your season. And sometimes there goes your career.
Gremlin says, I think there is still a rift between Rodgers and LaFleur after hearing both press conferences.
I would agree with you, Gremlin. I think there is. There was one last year. I think it got worse in the offseason. So there's definitely a rift there. Kyler
Murray?
No.
No. Packers, something with Green Bay?
That's losing. But, it's funny because I've heard a couple of things last week about, saying to Aaron Rodgers, if you've been thinking about retiring, then you're retired. So you might want to kind of keep that in the back of your mind as they go forward. And then one more thing I wanted, Lamar Jackson, is that the real Raiders? Because the Raiders were terrible at the start of that game.
I know.
I thought Derek Carr was channeling his inner Blaine Gabbert.
I know. I needed for my fantasy team. I needed Waller to have not a huge performance. Actually, I needed him to outscore Justin Tucker because I was pretty much tied with my opponent, and he had Justin Tucker and I had Waller. I was like, okay, a tight end should outscore a kicker, even though it's the best kicker in the league. He threw it to Waller on like every play and kept missing him.
Yeah, I know. It was terrible.
Behind him. It was terrible. And he ended up with great numbers, and people were really.
He got better as the game went on.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Like the game went on, he started getting more accurate, and he started running the offense better, and things started working. And that's the problem with Derek Carr. You just never know what you're going to get out of him. But Lamar Jackson did not play big when it came time to play in the clutch. Yeah. And, that was a Monday night game for the ages anyway. But, fumbling on, midfield and giving the ball back to the Raiders, it was just, a big play quarterback doesn't do that.
I'm concerned that Lamar is going to be asked to do too much this year because they are missing their top, 8
running backs. Yeah, right.
They have no running backs. And I'm just concerned it's going to be all on Lamar running and passing. The defense looked good when Carr was missing throws in the first quarter, but then the Ravens gave up 30 points.
Yeah.
So how good is the Ravens defense? I just think more than ever, Lamar has to be the MVP for that team to win. And you're going to see plays like that where he's trying to maybe do a little bit too much and he ends up making a mistake.
Yeah. It's very possible. Be interesting to see moving forward.
Well, let's look ahead now to week 2 in our final few minutes. We're hoping to get 2 more segments in if we have the time, if you guys are willing to stay with us past 1 o'clock. But let's get to your Nostradamus predicts.
Yeah. Hey, let's get to it. My first one is taking the Bengals. The Bears are favored by 2.5. Take the Bengals. The Bears are going to make life rough for Joe Burrow up front. That's not a question. That's going to happen. The problem is the Bears secondary is terrible. It is just abysmal. I think Cooper Kupp was more wide open. Analytics said it's like Bengals are going to. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Cooper Kupp was probably the widest open any receiver has been in like 20 years.
You got the analytics on that?
I read that
Really?
NFL Next Gen Stats came out with that.
Wow.
Didn't surprise me. And Eddie Jackson and Tashawn Gibson running past Van Jefferson in the first quarter, not touching him. He's on the ground. You're coming up. You don't, slap. Touch him somewhere. They didn't touch him. You got a 4-year vet and a 10-year vet. And Nagy says in his press conference Monday, well, that'll work out with coaching. Really? Coaching? Seriously? Oh, no. Decide. The defensive coordinator said that. We'll work that out in coaching. It's not coaching. That's stupid. Come on. So, but T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, I don't think the Bears can cover. And I think if they get their chance, they're going to make a big deal out of it, and the Bears are. There's a prop bet, I think, Jamar Chase over under 56 yards in receiving. Take the over on that too. If you can get it, if you can get Jamar Chase on the over, anything at double digits, because I think he's going to go off 3 digits on the Bears this Sunday.
Mm.
So, second game, New England Patriots favored by 6 over the New York Jets. Take the Patriots. The Jets cannot run the ball. Tevin Coleman rushed for 24 yards last week. That was their main rushing attack. That was it. The problem with New England, and there is a problem with New England, but I think it's fixable. They turned 393 total yards and only 16 points.
Yeah.
Cannot do that.
The fumble at the end of the game was really costly.
Fumble at the end of the game was costly, but everything about that game, even with the fumble, you needed to put up more points than that. You cannot go to 400 total points and only score 16. I mean, 400 total yards and only score 16.
Yeah.
It's you're not going to win that way. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you're playing. You're not going to win that way. But they were playing a tougher defense in Miami. That's an excuse. That's not saying that it was any better. But they just can't run enough to help Zach Wilson. The Patriots are going to play tough against him. They're going to make his life miserable if his life isn't already miserable. Robert Saleh, that rebuild is going to take a while. Also, the left tackle for the Jets, Mekhi Becton, is going to be out. And you already got offensive line problems, and now your left tackle's out. Yeah. It's not good. So take the Patriots -6. I like that. I've been going through, and it's kind of tough to pick that final game because the Browns are favored by 13 over Houston. Is Tyrod Taylor going to have another is he going to go off like that again like he did last week? The Rams, are the Colts going to play that bad behind Carson Wentz again? The Rams, I would like to say, if you want to take the Rams -3.5 points. That is a very low point total against a Colts team that really has not shown that they can move the ball yet with Carson Wentz in the behind center. And they don't have anybody else behind center. So my final game for you for tomorrow, if you want to run your 3-game parlay, take the Rams. So you got the Bengals, who are the underdogs, road underdogs, who are going to win outright. The Patriots favored by 6 against the Jets. Rams favored by 3.5. Road favorite against the Colts.
There you have it. Those are Tom's picks for week 2. Before we head out, I wanted to do a little bit of fantasy discussion.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Also in the Bears press conference, they're talking about Justin Fields, and Justin Fields referenced 59 minutes into the show. They're talking about Justin Fields like he's Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
And he's not Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is not a quarterback. All right. He's your Swiss Army knife. Justin Fields is a quarterback. And the way you're using Justin Fields right now, Andy Dalton did not launch a pass over 10 yards last week.
Not surprised by that.
No, that's the problem. And they're going to start him again tomorrow. Matt Nagy is apparently trying to be smarter than the room, and he's not smarter than the room. So that's just all I have to say about that.
There you go. Yeah. Well, hopefully, I mean, at least Fields played a little, if I'm trying to be positive here.
Scored a touchdown, too.
Yeah, scored a touchdown. But he needs to be out there more. And
Yes,
maybe we'll see him out there more as the Swiss Army knife. But honestly, he should just play quarterback.
He should just play quarterback. Exactly. The problem is the Bears offensive coordinator said Fields has handled everything, 100% of everything we've thrown at him.
Then why isn't he playing?
I know. Because Matt Nagy's smarter than the room.
Yeah. And I didn't I'm going to criticize Chris Collinsworth again. And actually, he's like my favorite announcer. I know there are lots of people that don't like him. But I didn't think he had a great Thursday night performance, Dallas and Tampa Bay. And then Sunday night, it just seemed like he felt like he had to defend Chicago and all their decision-making for Justin Fields and explain why Fields can't play right now. And it's just like, but we saw every other rookie quarterback play pretty much.
And played pretty well.
And they all played
Zach
really
Wilson
well.
even had 2 second-half touchdown passes.
Zach Wilson?
Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Everybody played fairly well last week.
Yeah, and Trey Lance didn't start, but he got in and did similar to Fields. He threw a touchdown pass with his one attempt. He's the only one of the rookie quarterbacks on a team that has a quarterback, that has a legit starter. So there's a reason why Trey Lance isn't starting. It's Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
But the Bears don't have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Bears don't have they don't even have Jimmy. I'm trying to think of a lousy quarterback with first name Jimmy. But I mean, the Red Rifle's not going to get it done. And you're right. I mean, there's no excuse for the Bears to be playing games with Justin Fields instead of putting him on the field and letting him do what he does.
Well, we'd love to see Fields on the field sooner rather than later for the Bears, but also your fantasy team. I have a few fantasy comments to make here at the end of our show. We're not going to be like giving you waiver wire advice because waiver wire is passed by Saturday, but I thought we could do like a something or nothing type segment here after week 1, and I've got 4 names that either did well. Well, actually all of them did well in week 1, and we're either going to say, yeah, we think they'll continue to do that, or hey, put the brakes on this guy. Don't get too over anxious or too high of expectations just yet. The first guy, Elijah Mitchell, the new starting running back for the 49ers, was really everybody's top waiver wire addition after week 1. He's going to be starting because Raheem Mostert is out with a knee injury. He's on IR. He's going to be out at least 8 weeks.
No, he's done for the season.
He's done for the season. I thought I saw 8 weeks.
He's done.
All right. So Mitchell comes in. Do you like starting Mitchell in week 2? Do you expect him to be a real big contributor going forward?
I do. And it's amazing how the 49ers seem to always come up with a running back. One running back goes down, another running back goes in. I think with Mike Shanahan's offense, I would say keep playing him. Get Mitchell in the game because I think he's going to continue to play well.
I agree. 19 carries, 104 yards against Detroit, a touchdown. Won't get to play Detroit every week. And I am concerned concerned isn't the right word. I guess you got to monitor how the 49ers rotate their running backs because you still have the rookie Trey Sermon, and Jermichael Hasty was on the field a little bit on Sunday as well. But I think Mitchell's going to be the lead guy.
He produced.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. And Shanahan's going to stick with him if he produced.
Another guy that produced quite a bit, 2 touchdowns in week 1, going back to the Cardinals-Titans game, Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I know.
Scored twice. Always been a talented guy, but he's always been kind of buried on the depth chart in Arizona. Is this finally the time where he breaks out and has a Pro Bowl season?
I don't know, because he still seems to be buried on the depth chart behind Green and DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
So, and DeAndre Hopkins, to me, is just otherworldly. I mean, he's a receiver like, very few receivers you're ever going to see in the NFL. I love that DeAndre Hopkins. I love his game. I love how he goes about his game.
So that's about him, yeah.
But, sometimes it's a matter of who the quarterback gets a rapport with, who he starts feeling comfortable with. And it's not always the guy you would say on paper that, your big free agent signing or your big acquisition. So it might be Christian Kirk. I would wait another week to see how week 2 is going to play out. But this might be a possibility that you're seeing something out of receiver you didn't expect to get anything out of.
I agree. I would wait and see. And the reason for it is exactly what you're saying. I'm trying to get up the Arizona snap counts here. AJ Green played almost 80% of the snaps. And that, to me, you talk about Hopkins. Hopkins is going to be the star. He's going to be the number 1 receiver.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So you got to see Green's snaps go down and Kirk's go up for him to be a regular starter in your fantasy lineup. But does he have the potential to have 2 touchdowns? I mean, it's not going to happen every week, but does he have the potential to go off every week? Yes, he does. He does. He has that talent.
Mm-hmm.
How about Melvin Gordon, Denver Broncos running back? He was helped by a really long run at the end of that game. And I think that is what people got to remember is, you want to have backs that can go off on a long run and make your fantasy day on one play. But, for a long time in that game, he was contained against the New York Giants.
Yeah, against the New York Giants team, it really was not strong against the rush in that game. But, I like Melvin Gordon. I always have.
Finished with 101 yards, over 9 yards per carry, and a touchdown. But again, he had that 70-yard run that made up, almost 70% of his yards.
But I mean, who else does Denver have?
Well, they got that rookie, Javonte Williams.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if you start him. If he's on your roster, if you don't have anybody else, I guess you got to start him. But I don't think it's time to start him yet. I still have questions about that Denver offense. So I would say, good guy to keep an eye on, good guy to have on your bench if you got him. Don't regret not playing him if you don't get him in every now and then. But I wouldn't count on him every week yet to put up the big numbers.
This quarterback already played in week 2, the guy we're going to end the show with, Taylor Heineke. What did you think of him on Thursday night and in relief of Ryan Fitzpatrick in week 1? And you don't have to just comment for fantasy-wise, just in general. Is this a guy that maybe you can add if you've got Ryan Tannehill and you're concerned about him? And where does he fit in the NFC East race?
Wow. He disappointed me in the second half against the Chargers because I thought Washington was in a good position to actually finish that game and win that game, and he didn't come through. He played a hell of a game against the Giants.
Yeah.
Now, was that the Giants defense, or was that Taylor, Heineke actually having first-team reps all week, working with the offensive coordinator all week, and being more in rhythm with his offense than he was week 1? I mean, week 1, You're not seeing the field. You're not seeing the reps. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick is the guy who's getting all the reps in practice.
Yeah, he's a backup.
Right. So I'm looking forward to seeing this upcoming week 3 and seeing what he can do, because it's possible maybe you got something here. But also one of the things I always go back to, defensive coordinators are not stupid. You get a little film on a guy, and they're going to adjust to what you do, where you look, how you do you look off guys? Are you good at looking off? What kind of decisions do you make when you're rushed? What kind of decisions do you make when you have time in the pocket? Where you go with the ball? Who's your favorite receiver? Defensive coordinators are going to catch up with that after about 2 or 3 weeks. I want to see Heineke after about week 5. And if he's still playing strong, then this is definitely somebody you want to move forward with. It's somebody maybe the football team wants to move forward with. Because Fitzgerald is not the long-time question. He's not going to be the long-term answer in Washington.
Right. Okay, so you're kind of a wait-and-see mode with
yeah, I want to wait and see. I think he came up big, really big against the Giants. And you got to say something for that. A quarterback who comes up big in those kind of situations. That's what you want to see out of your number one. He's got to do more than just manage the game. He's got to actually make some plays for you. I think Heineke did that. I want to see if he can continue to do that for another couple of weeks.
I don't want to get – I like him. I think he could turn into something. But I don't want to get over zealous with my praise for him because, I mean, I think he was, a Dexter Lawrence staying on side play away from us saying, well, he threw a really bad pick at the end of the game.
Yes.
Which he did. Right. He made some really nice throws. The touchdown pass to Ricky Seals-Jones was really impressive.
Almost lost the game for him.
But yeah, he in the first time he had the opportunity to end the game, win the game, he threw an interception. But then he got another chance and put them in field goal range.
Yeah.
And it was a long field goal that was initially missed.
Hey, still.
But we're praising him because the field goal kicker gets the second opportunity to make the field goal and he makes it. So it's just funny how, I guess what I'm saying is we're too result-based sometimes in our analysis. And because Washington won, it's okay for me to forget about the interception and praise Heineke.
Well, I still think he was worth some praise. I think he threw some good passes. I think he did a lot of good. This is only his 4th NFL start.
Yeah.
He's been in the league a while, and it's only his 4th NFL start. So, I think we got a good look at him. I want to see him do better next week in week 3. Who do they got in week 3?
They have the Bills on the road.
Ooh. That's going to be tough because the Bills are going to be looking to come back from an 0-2 start. I don't know. That's going to be tough to do. Because I don't know if the Bills can win this week. I want to.
You think the Bills are going to lose to the Dolphins?
I think they can. I think the Dolphins have very good defense. It's not as much. I thought Tua did some good things last week, but I think the Dolphins can play a pretty solid defense. As a matter of fact, again, the Patriots gained 300, almost 400 yards.
Yeah.
And only scored 16 points. That's saying something. I think the Bills will win. I really do. But I'm just kidding when I say they're going to be 0-2. But I do think the Bills will win.
Okay.
The Dolphins are not the Steelers on defense. It's not, and I don't want anybody thinking that I'm losing my mind here. No, I'm not losing my mind here.
The Dolphins have a good defense. They give up a lot of yards.
Yes.
More yards than normal than what you would say is a good defense.
Yes.
They take the ball away. They play well situationally. They're a Bill Belichick type defense under Brian Flores.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So I think the Bills win this Sunday, but or tomorrow, but it should be a great game coming up with Washington. And again, this is the kind of test you want to see out of Heineke.
Right.
Can he play a big team and do well? I mean, he beat the Giants, all right, and the Giants played well, but it's still the Giants. Still a Joe Judge coach team.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we'll see how it goes.
That does it for us this Saturday. Thanks so much for staying with us through the whole show. Running a little bit long today, but we're getting to a lot of great topics. Thanks for making us a part of your Saturday. Follow us on Twitter at TJ Pollen, at DM Holcomb. Remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Atlanta Sports Unlimited on YouTube, Facebook. And we'll be back next Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And for our Central Time Zone friends, 11 a.m.
Yep.
See you next week.
Have a great week.